Hello, and welcome back to the Write Your Path podcast. My name is Lolly Spindler. I'm a writer, editor, book doula, and writing coach. And on today's episode, I have my friend Udi, who is basically like an incredible food, agricultural, sustainability thought leader. And so I really wanted to bring him on. He's actually the first man we've had on the show. Um, and so I really wanted to bring him on to learn more about what he does. Because he's been in this world for how many years now?
Uh, 30 years almost.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's like, an expert in the field. And so I really wanted to learn more about kind of where we're at and where we're going from here. So first off, welcome to the show, Udi.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Lolly.
Thank you so much for being here and for giving us some of your time. I just wanted to start by asking you, you're here in Mexico City with me, and I wanted to learn about like what in your life kind of brought you here to this moment being in Mexico City. Like what were the twists and turns of your life, personally and professionally, that kind of had you land in Mexico City, and why have you stayed?
Great question. Very long potential answer.
That's great. That's fine.
Yeah. But
take your time.
Lots of twists and turns. But fairly straightforward. It's funny because people often ask me if how I like being a digital nomad, and I'm like, I don't describe myself as a digital nomad.
Location
I never
independent
have.
phase.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
At least now. But to answer your question, I grew up in Wisconsin. There's a whole background there, but Go Pat. Exactly. Oh, there you go. And Bucks and Brewers and Badgers. I'm a Badger. I think a big part of who I am absolutely is shaped by the fact that I am multicultural already. And so my parents are from wildly different parts of the world. I was born on the other side of the planet, and that's always influenced me in terms of kind of how I think of my place in the world. My mom's from Argentina, my dad's from Morocco. They got married after college in Jerusalem, and wow. I was born there after they went and did their PhD. He did his PhD in Boston, and he has a crazy story, wow. Insane, totally ridiculous. Comes from illiterate parents from a village in Morocco that he doesn't even know where it is.
Damn.
Yeah, and they moved the family to Israel, and when he was 4. But anyways, so just having that different influence of different cultures has always made me feel comfortable with other cultures. Plus having Spanish around me all the time with my mom, and she always spoke it with her parents. Not her parents, yes, her parents, but they passed away when I was young. But her family, distant family, and everything, and on the phone, and I always heard it, and so. But I think, I was always drawn to, I loved Madison where I grew up, but I was always drawn to moving away and to being in somewhere more interesting, to being somewhere more captivating in different ways. And at first it was definitely, and what led me, up until just the past few years, kind of to continue moving out west from Wisconsin, was wilderness and mountains and ocean and wild, free, open spaces. And so like I said, I could go deep into detail, but I was living in California, in San Francisco, and during the pandemic, when the pandemic started, and went remote. And I have a very dear friend who lives in Sayulita in Mexico, and in Nayarit on the coast. Little surf village, and she is a surf and yoga instructor. And so she was like, I have no work, I'm going back to Vancouver where I'm from, do you want to come hang out and take care of my dogs for 3 weeks or 2-3 weeks or something? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And so I came down with the woman I was seeing at the time, in the middle of lockdown, 2020, after having worked out of a tent, camping in like Mammoth and hot springs and going up and down the coast and the redwoods and the Sierras and the Cascades.
Wow. You guys like van lifing?
Yeah, basically van lifing out of a VW Touareg and my little Subaru Impreza. So I wish we had a van. But I mean, we camped out like next to hot springs, literally like had our own private spots everywhere that you just in the national forest, which is really tied to my work up until a number of years ago, which was forest conservation work. And so I was really familiar with like the way that, you could explore and recreate from various perspectives on public lands. And I'm a huge fan and advocate for the protection of public lands. I was professionally for over a decade.
Wow.
So we came down to Sayulita, and 3 weeks turned into 18 months.
Wow.
And just stayed and fell in love with it. But I got a little bit tired of like how crowded it gets in the summertime. Well, in the winter, and then in the summer it kind of dies down. It's very transient, and the weather's really intense. It's super hot over there in the summertime and rainy all day, and there's no infrastructure for it anyway. So I visited here in Mexico City in Semana Santa in 2022, in like April 2022, and I just fell in love with it, and I decided this is where I want to be socially, professionally, in many different ways. The climate is phenomenal, all the things, and I just love this neighborhood where we live, and decided to just do it. So I did it with a carry-on, and I've been here ever since, I guess 3.5 years, almost 4 years.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love how so many people come here and they're like, oh, it's going to be like a couple months. And then it's like years later, they're like, oh, right. This is my home, I guess.
Exactly.
It's like not planned. It just kind of happens, which I think is really beautiful.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us more about like your professional journey. You said you were in public land protection, forestation. So how did that kind of lead into now you're doing more like sustainability and food proteins? Like how did that kind of path lead you to where you're at now?
Yeah. So I had really amazing influences growing up, and I was very lucky to have been raised in the city where I was raised, because it was just a really liberal, progressive, kind of like activist-y place. People often called Madison, where I grew up, like the Berkeley of the East. It was just, it was a big part of like the heart of the anti-Vietnam War kind of protests. And there's always just been really cool progressive action and thought. And it's also, it's two very specific, I would later find out basically, but it's not only the state where there's more heavily logged national forest than, and I can talk a little bit about that, what that means, than any other state, south of Alaska at least, which is where I also lived and did a lot of work. But there's also like more organic farms in the county where I grew up than anywhere else outside of California, Santa Cruz County, and some other counties in California.
Oh, crazy!
And so there's the largest farmers market in the country is in Madison, the Dane County Farmers Market. It's massive. There's like, I grew up with going downtown where the Capitol is, and surrounding the Capitol is like then hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of organic farm vendors. And 10,000 people walking the market every Saturday.
That's so cool.
And it's massive. And so that really inspired me, and it's just a really progressive place. So I had a lot of really great influences, a lot of good people around me. It's a huge university town. So just had a lot of really interesting people around all the time. And I would like go downtown, and I worked downtown, and which is where the university is, and I just made a lot of really cool friends that were like total hippies, and I was a total hippie.
I love it.
And yeah, so I mean, the first phase of the story is definitely conservation advocacy as a profession, with food activism and personal choice being kind of more of a personal choice, being more of like lifestyle choice. So when I was 16 or 17, I was learning a lot about. I was actually hitchhiking. I hitchhiked across the country twice.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like following music.
That's so cool. I just
And
hitchhiked yesterday, so this is
really?
really funny.
Here?
Yeah, which I know is like
Wow.
a no-go, but we got really lucky and it was like an
Wow.
angel man that picked us up.
That
So
sounds great.
yeah.
I want to hear that story. And so I saw the West when I was like 17, the American West.
Wow.
And it just blew my mind. And it was like forests for as far as the eye could see, crazy, beautiful mountains, undisturbed blankets of just beautiful green, evergreen forests. And at the time I was just like, I truly was a total hippie. I just became more and more like an earth-loving, sustainability focused kind of advocate. And just really like enamored with wildness for some reason. I think that's because I got to see that and I experienced that, and I was just a really free spirit, and I was really interested in all of that, the wildness and the freedom that wild open spaces offer. And then I was 18 or 19 and had the opportunity to do like an 8-week backpacking research program through San Francisco State University.
Oh, cool.
That took us backpacking for the first time. I went from Madison where I was going to college at the time, because I started in university right before I turned 18. I started really early because I graduated high school early, and so I was in school and I did this program, and the program had a really strong emphasis. It was brilliant. It basically had the guides were these like it was all in Montana. Ooh. And it was these Montana locals who were activists for the forest, for forest conservation, and they were backpacking guides, and they took us, and a big part of it was learning basically and understanding how public lands are managed, and specifically national forests, which is what like most of the western part of Montana are these vast national forests, and the largest wilderness area in the lower 48 states is in the heart of western Montana, the Bob Marshall Wilderness, and it's just beautiful. And we learned about the impacts of like mining, logging, road building, ATV use. And not only did we learn about that because you could see it firsthand, but it was also part of the program was like writing letters to our senators and to the representatives of that region to ask them to protect that area. And it taught me the potential and the value of activism and of like civil action and being involved, public policy, action. And my life was changed from then for sure.
Wow.
I had like a little notebook. I remember just like backpacking for weeks and weeks, and would just write things down and then write letters and send them off to the senators afterwards. And so that just taught me how precious and the opportunity, like how incredibly beautiful and fragile the ecosystems are, and how endangered they are, and the things that are affecting them. And I learned a lot more about it in college because I studied conservation biology basically as a result, because all I cared about was like protecting wild forests at that point. That really changed my life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So there's a whole history of like why it's even a thing, like national forests. What are they? But the point is that they're managed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, basically as a crop. So the U.S. Forest Service, manages the National Forest System, and the U.S. Forest Service is part of the Department of Ag. And so the idea the idea is that they can, harvest timber and other things for industry. But they don't do it themselves, like responsibly. They sell the land. It's called a timber sale. They sell the timber, not the land. They sell the timber, just the resource on the land, which is like our land. As if you're an American citizen, you own that land. And they sell off the timber. They call it, the woods, basically, to timber industry. And there's an opportunity for public comment through the National Environmental Protection Act and the National Forest Management Act, which mandate that the government offer different alternatives for the specific types of, say like timber management programs or sales to these different companies, and also to say like there's one of the options is do nothing, like don't sell the land, like keep it pristine. And the government is required to open up every single time that they do this, they have to open it up to public comment. But nobody really knows about it, so nobody really gets that involved.
Damn.
Yeah. And they have to listen, like it's by law. And so activists started, and I started learning about this, is that like as an activist, we could actually start to organize and generate public awareness and public support for protecting these wild, beautiful ecosystems, these crazy wild places like old growth forests. And that's where a lot of the Earth First and kind of the forest activism emerged from, is this concept that we have the opportunity to take action. I mean, in other places, you just have to go out there and put yourself between the loggers and the chainsaws.
Oh my God. Have you done that?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Did that quite a bit. And so like in like
That's
California crazy. And in Idaho. And so, yeah, that just became like a huge focus of mine. And I think when I was like 18 or 19, I was the Wisconsin state delegate to the National Forest Protection Alliance.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So there's like all these organizations and activists, nonprofits basically, that are working to organize political support and public support for protecting our public lands.
Wow.
And that's a huge part of like conservation across America, not just the West, but all over. There was a forest protection gathering one time that Woody Harrelson came to, because he was a big fan of conservation. He still is. And I did reiki on him in the woods one time. Oh my God, what? That was really fun. But they were just like really crazy people. Yeah, I love this, it was so wild. But so I was just really involved in that, and I got like my first job out of college was called Green Corps, which is a like I said, I can go on, stop me at any point. But
no, I love it. Keep going.
Details. But basically, there's this like grassroots organizing fellowship called Green Corps, and I'd already been doing this for a few years, and so I got this gig like which was a year-long training basically that paid you a salary to basically learn how to run grassroots campaigns, like direct action and like public action campaigns, and then it sets people up to get jobs at like Greenpeace or Sierra Club or these different places, like at a pretty young age. And it's a very kind of like exclusive, kind of competitive thing. And so I was lucky enough to get into this program after college, and quit after like 9 months, because I was like, this is kind of BS. I just wasn't into it, because all they were really trying to do was like get people to like canvas for like Greenpeace and raise money and teach you how to run these campaigns, basically to raise money. And you can learn a lot of these skills outside of that kind of context. But anyways, I did it, but right after I quit, I got an amazing job in Boulder, Colorado. So I was through Greenpeace. I lived or Green Corps, I should say. I lived in these different states, like running these campaigns. But then after I left, I got hired in Boulder to run the Southwest office, or the Southern Rockies office for this like national forest activism organization called the American Lands Alliance. So that was really, really, really cool, because that really gave me a very clear like picture of what it looks like to be that was my job. Like I was getting a salary to go all over the southwestern U.S., Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah, and find out where these timber sales were happening that the Forest Service was planning, and organize community support, and like map out and work with the other organizations and activists and conservationists in the region, from like the Wilderness Society or the environmental organizations in the region, to kind of create coalitions and map out like what are the endangered species that are at risk, or the forest regions that like should not be touched, and work on protecting them. Yeah, so that was wild, and did that job. Oh, and there's a whole part of, I lived in Alaska twice before this, working with like indigenous people and
Ooh.
fighting to protect the rainforest up there as well. And so I was just really steeped in conservation work and advocacy.
I love that.
Yeah. So,
and I love when you can actually make money from your activism.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like the best
it was
scenario.
very little money, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think at that point, my salary for American lands in Colorado was like $39,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was like 23.
Yeah.
You know?
So like right out of college, that's great.
Yeah, exactly. I was like 23 to like 25, 26. And I was also leading backpacking trips on the side. I was
fun.
running like outdoor adventure trips. And I lived in Guatemala for a summer, and in Costa Rica for a while, and these different programs, like just taking breaks from the work. And sometimes we just didn't have funding, so I would
so
lead trips for a living and things like that. So that was really cool. But I then decided, okay, well, I want to do this. I want to take it a step forward and get a master's degree.
Oh, cool.
And so I did my master's in public affairs at Colorado, which was focused on like nonprofit management, and the goal was to do more kind of forest activism and conservation work. But I was starting to get a lot more interested in food and food systems, and I'd been farming for a number of years in Colorado as well when I was living there, and just really passionate and enamored with food and farming systems. And I'd been a vegetarian for at that point probably 10 years. For environmental reasons, and was just really interested in kind of the impact of agriculture on the environment. And so after grad school, my first master's, I got a job in Seattle, running the agricultural program for this big land conservation organization, this land trust. And then it was like 2008 or 9, and the economy just fell apart, and I lost that job. So that was my second amazing grant-funded nonprofit activist kind of cool job, but that fell apart.
You're like, no.
And so then I'm like, okay, and at that point, and I think I made a little bit more money doing that job. Yeah. But I was starting to realize, like, okay, this is probably not a sustainable career forever. But I didn't know what to do, and I went down to California. And I lived on, my friends from Seattle moved down there, and they had an amazing farm. They were working on a farm, and they invited me to live on it, right on the coast.
Beautiful.
Yeah, just north of Santa Cruz. Literally on the coast, across the street from Año Nuevo State Park, which is a beautiful beach state park. Wow. And Big Basin? I don't remember what it's called. The state national, or the Redwood State Park that's right there as well. Yeah. Anyways, so it was this beautiful farm, and then I got a job in town in Santa Cruz as the national policy advocacy director for the organization that created the organic food standard. Wow. And the organic label. Yeah, so that was my main entry into national policy advocacy in food. And that was huge. It was a big deal. It was really cool. It was the group that worked on organic advocacy. Wow. And so we were going to DC a lot. I was my job was to organize farmers all across the US in every single state to take action in Congress to get the Farm Bill specifically to support sustainability on farms, on land. Yeah. That's incredible. So it was really cool. And just learning about how the system works. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure it was a master class. Yeah, and how it works against sustainable farming in many ways, and food systems, and how the system is set up to support and award really unsustainable practices. Yeah. But it was really cool, and we were able to generate about 300, get congressional support in the appropriations process for about $300 million of programs that support like conservation and environmental kind of behaviors and practices on private farms.
Wow.
Which was really cool. And then after 3 years of doing that, they lost all their funding, and
oh no,
I
not
had
again.
my third layoff. And I think at that point,
I don't know if you had the bad luck or if you were the bad luck.
I don't know. I hope I wasn't. I was part of a system that wasn't making much sense, you know. But it was, you know, it's these grant-funded, soft money-funded organizations that are amazing, and I really believe in them, because if it wasn't for them, we literally wouldn't have most of the environmental protections that we have in America. The only reason we have a national forest system, the only reason we have a national park system, wilderness act, the environmental, like most of the environmental measures, the Clean Water, the Clean Air Act, all of this stuff are the result of activists, many of whom, you know, were unpaid, of course, volunteers, the vast majority of them. But because philanthropists were able to give money to organizations that, you know, did have the capacity to organize people, you know, it resulted in us having a lot of these we literally wouldn't have like national parks in America if it wasn't for that. From 1908, there was a big movement to, and that's a whole history. But for me, it just was like, okay, there's a writing on the wall here. I need to make a change. And I was noticing that the private sector is really a great way to move the needle on the issues I care about and the natural food world. And it's where consumers really make a difference, is like with their dollar and with their choices. But I didn't know how to enter that world because I'd never worked in that world. And so I decided to get an MBA, which I started after a brief hiatus of actually 2 years, which started with a 10-day silent meditation retreat in Oaxaca, a 2-month yoga retreat, and then 2 years leading high-end cycling, like luxury trips throughout Europe.
I love this trajectory for you.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to get back to like the work that I really believe in.
But I love that. We all need those mental breaks to like know if what we think we want is what we really want.
Right. It was really cool. And I remember thinking, I was like in Europe and I was like, okay, I'm sick of this. I just want a garden and a girlfriend. I was like, neither of which are possible in this lifestyle.
It's like, I'm looking for the 2 G's, baby.
Yeah, exactly. and so I came back to the States and applied for business school. I'd always heard about these Green MBAs, like sustainability-focused MBAs. And the best one in the country is Presidio. It's considered the best one. And so it's called Presidio Graduate School. So I applied and got in, and it's in San Francisco. Yep. So yeah, and I did that, and my goal was to, like I said, work like my goal was really to start a company. My goal, like I was hoping to learn entrepreneurial skills to how to start like a food company. Little did I know, you learn very little entrepreneurial skills in business school. Yep. At least in mine.
It's just like real life. School of life is how you learn the entrepreneurial skills.
It's really true. And so, but I did that, and literally the very first, probably week, if not day, of classes, I was sitting next to this woman who became a very dear friend of mine, my friend Aubrey, and business school brings together like really cool people. Like she is a professional LPGA golfer. Wow. And just a great person. And she handed me this business card. She was like, hey, I just heard about this company and they're not for me, but they're totally up your alley. They're all about like plant-based food and sustainability. And at this time I was plant-based. I did eat eggs and dairy, but I didn't eat meat. And well, that's not true. I was eating a little bit of meat after my time in Alaska, working with indigenous people, which was cool. But so I was like, oh, what's this? What's this company? And I go down to their headquarters. It's a company called Hampton Creek, which was a teeny little company that had just been formed. This was like 2014, and they were on a mission to create, like, revolutionize the food world with plant-based food technology that replaced, you know, like meat and eggs and dairy. And I had an interview on the spot.
Wow.
And I got hired.
Holy shit.
It was wild.
Just like, I'm going to go see what these people are about. And then you leave, you're like, you're hired. You're
and,
like, okay. Thank you,
was,
universe. Very clear.
Totally. And they had just raised $90 million.
Holy shit.
In their, like, first raise.
Wow.
And so, or maybe it was their Series A or maybe B. I don't remember at that point. But it was very early. And there was, like, 10 employees. They were all in this tiny little space in the Soma district of San Francisco. And my job literally was to go all over the world and find proteins from plants, like tissues, like seeds and leaves, bring them back to the office in San Francisco and build a library of protein-rich plant tissues for them to study, to find ways to replace unsustainable proteins, like animal-based proteins, with plant-based proteins. And so I was kind of like the tip of the spear. Or the Indiana Jones of plants.
Yes. Wait, we need to get you a hat.
Yeah. It was wild.
That sounds like the coolest job ever.
Anyways, so I've been talking, I've been rambling, but
no, I love it.
The interesting part about this also from a personal perspective was, like, I was still in business school. I was just starting business school. I was in my first semester. And they were like, we won't give you stock until you become, they were like, I was like, I can't work full time. Like, I can't. Business school is really demanding. And they were like, okay, well, you'll be part-time, and we'll only pay you $90,000, and we won't give you stock until you come on board full-time. And I was like, deal. Like, sold.
Damn.
Part-time, 90 grand. I'm like, what is this? That was the startup world. And so this is like a picture of, like, what it looks like to get into. All of a sudden I'm getting this, like, wake-up call of what the San Francisco Silicon Valley kind of tech world actually looks like for people, and you don't even have to be in tech. And I was like, okay, this is a sustainable lifestyle all of a sudden. And then so I go through business school, I finish, I'm traveling all over the world for this company at the same time. It was wild. I finish, and they, up my salary. They gave me a lot of stock. And so I'm working for this amazing company. And that's really what, this company becomes kind of the darling. It was like the first unicorn or over $1 billion valued food company.
Wow. And
they raised a crazy amount of money and brought a bunch of products to market, which I'm very proud of, having been very much involved with, like a product called Just Egg, which I had been super involved with because I was in Inner Mongolia and I brought home some mung beans, and the mung beans were tested for their ability to, like, gel like an egg. Like, when you think about food science, you think about, you use these different terms like gelation and foaming and emulsification and solubility, hydrophobicity,
so
and
you
things like that.
also learned chemistry.
I learned a very crazy amount of information. And the key to making an egg product is gelation. It's one of the main things. Eggs also emulsify really nicely, and they do, like, everything actually. And so the mung bean protein happened to do a really good job of gelling water and oil, basically mostly water, and it looked just like a scrambled egg. And so we made a product that became, like, an insanely popular product called Just Egg in the US.
I did just watch the video on your website, and I couldn't believe that was not an egg.
Yeah.
I was like, so those are eggs, and it's like, no, it's actually mung beans.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, thanks. And the coolest thing is, like, my job became basically head of sourcing and sustainability. I created the sustainability role, and then we had to source a crazy amount of mung beans to build this product. And so I built all these relationships with, like mung beans are truly only grown, and I can say this with great confidence, 95% of mung beans in the world are grown by smallholder farmers in the developing world. Because that's who eats them, is India. Like, it all goes to India almost entirely. It's a staple. Mung dal is what that is, and it's
yeah.
a staple of protein.
I do
in
eat
India.
a lot of moong dal.
Yeah, so there you go. And so a lot of countries, China, Thailand, Myanmar, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, even Australia, even Argentina, and India, of course, grow mung beans for the Indian market for the most part.
Wow.
And it's a wildly disorganized and interesting and not controlled market. There's no commodity market. There's no price system that's consistent. But so a beautiful thing about building that supply chain was getting to go and work with, you know, smallholder farmers and social enterprise organizations around the world of farmers specifically to build a supply of these mung beans to send to the U.S. And at one point I was like the largest importer of mung beans into the U.S.
Wow, that's crazy.
Anyways, yeah, it was wild. It was
That's
crazy.
so cool.
So Just Egg, you know, continues to exist today, and it's a great product. And so finally getting to the end of this crazy long story, I left after 7 years of working there, and was kind of the spokesperson along with the CEO. I did a lot of the media and the speaking and the TV shows, and hung out with like Wiz Khalifa and 2 Chainz and Gwen Stefani and David Attenborough and all these people doing all these incredible, and Moby, like he was cool. Yeah, he's a hardcore vegan. Yeah. And so it was just really cool, and like doing these TV shows, and because people were interested in this product and this whole idea. And so I left, and I had all these contacts, and decided to start my own consulting business, helping companies build like plant-based food products, and helping, you know, other mainstream companies like source sustainably. And then last year, or kind of end of 2024, landed on this idea to start FUDI Protein, which utilizes the most abundant, it brings to market the most abundant and truly one of the most functional proteins on the planet.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I also love the name. So Udi's name is like UDI, and so it's FUDI, FUDI. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. I just had to throw that out there because I was like, that's adorable.
I'm always like, is this self-aggrandizing? Like, is this weird to use my name in this thing?
Because I mean, your business is like you. It's your expertise. It's your knowledge. So it's like you're always kind of selling yourself anyways, but you're also telling people like branding wise, like what you actually do. So I was like, this is perfect.
That's true. And it's foodie. So it's like,
I know.
Which I love because it's like food, and I'm a foodie. It's cool. Yeah. Anyways.
I love it. So like you said, like your MBA, like business school didn't really teach you much about like entrepreneurship and starting a business. So you started FUDI mostly as like strategic partnerships, also consulting, and then eventually you came into, I'm going to actually create my own kind of like product as well. So how was that kind of journey for you? How did you hit the ground running with what you did learn, and then what was like the biggest lesson you learned like outside of school?
Yeah. Well, so my dad, like I said, he went to Harvard, he did his MBA and his PhD at MIT from illiterate parents, like totally crazy. And the number one thing he taught me when I told him I was thinking about going to business school, he was like, do it. And the only reason to do it is for the network. That's why you go to business school.
Which like you would have been good then after your first semester.
Right, exactly. It's true. It's technically
Once
true.
your friend gave you that card, you're like, all right, I'm out of business school. This is what I came here for.
I should have left. But I definitely did have the benefit of making incredible friends and connections, and that network is just phenomenal, and to this day they're some of my best friends. And one of the individuals, Dan, his name's Dan Kurzrock, and he had already started a company called Regrained, which takes like spent grain from the beer brewing industry and turns it into food.
What?
Yeah.
That's
like,
amazing.
Specifically bars at the time, these really cool like granola bars with spent barley from the beer brewing industry.
Wow.
And
I love that idea.
Yeah, and he quickly became one of my best friends, and we did every single project together in grad school. Like any opportunity we could to work together, we did. And he's quite a bit younger than me, but he became a mentor in many ways. And so he was a big inspiration, I think, for me. And he's been a mentor to my company. to this day, and will continue to be. But yeah, so so business school gave me some tools to understand, I think more than anything, like financial modeling and some language around operations, probably.
Okay.
But it didn't, I probably forgot all of it at this point anyways. And so when I left Just and I was doing my own thing, I started kind of a brokerage company. It's kind of an ingredient brokerage company, so it was called FUDI Ingredients, and it still is. And so FUDI Protein is the company that I now run. That's doing business as FUDI Protein. It's part of FUDI Ingredients.
I just think of FUDI as like the umbrella.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
All the different.
Yeah, because there's FUDI Impact Partners as well, and that's what I do a lot of, like the sustainability consulting with, and supply chain consulting and stuff like that. But it basically came from my work at Hampton Creek, or Eat Just, which is what it became known as. We brought home a number of different proteins from leaves, which was really interesting. And moringa was probably the most common one that had a lot of promise. But there's also something called, and that has rubisco protein. But like duckweed, algae, all these different types of plants that grow really fast, have a ton of protein. So we discovered this, and we knew that it was really functional, meaning it could do a lot of the things like eggs do, for example, in a recipe. But nobody wants green protein. Like you can't. It was very hard to separate the green from a neutral colored protein, because the green, like chloroplasts in the leaves, or the chlorophyll.
Yeah.
But there was the technology to do it. I just wasn't involved in any efforts to actually like put together an infrastructure to do that. There just wasn't the interest to do that. And so just over a year ago, I connected with a PhD a chemical engineer who was the head of protein engineering at Impossible Foods.
Oh, okay.
And then was with me. He was like our scale up pilot plant director. And he worked for a couple of other companies. And we were like, you know what? We think this rubisco protein, which is this protein found in every plant, every green leaf on the planet, and is considered the most abundant protein on the planet.
Wow. And
incredibly functional, meaning it can do all the things that like an egg white does, 1-to-1 replacement.
Wow.
If you can figure out how to isolate it in pure white form and keep it intact, it's a complete protein. It has all the essential amino acids, it's soluble, it's just amazing. And like all these scientific articles, the Journal of Food Chemistry, the Journal of Food Science, they all call it the holy grail of protein.
Wow.
Or the ideal protein for human food applications and things like that.
Incredible.
So we were like, we need to do this because the world needs rubisco. And so a lot of, and we started to see that a lot of other companies are trying to do this as well. So it's kind of a race, and it still is. We're at the very beginning.
Wow.
But others are further along for sure. And we built a kind of a cost model and a supply chain that we're in the process of building, but we've kind of mapped out, that is just incredible. It's a no-brainer. I'm happy to talk about it, but it's just really exciting. And honestly, from an entrepreneurship perspective, like I never thought, people always told me, they're like, we see you as more like, a person who kind of inspires people, connects people, all that stuff, but you don't have that like cutthroat entrepreneur, like CEO kind of mentality. And I'm learning that the skills you need so far as an entrepreneur are really just like focused on a really good idea, really good passion, time, energy, and a network.
Yeah.
And really good like advisors and so on. And so yeah, just looking forward to continuing to build this thing and see where it goes.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, I definitely think community building is a part of like every entrepreneur's path, because like you said, the people you met all throughout your journey to get you to where you're at now have all contributed, and like you're still working with some of those people, which is amazing. So in terms of impact, I feel like we get to a point in our entrepreneurial path where it like becomes more about impact than anything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yes, we love money. Money is great, but like impact is where our real legacy lies.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the ideal impact you would like to have with FUDI? It can be in one of the branches or all of the branches under the umbrella of FUDI, but what would be like the ideal impact scenario for you?
The goal is to displace as much of the unsustainable protein market as possible. So the eggs, the to a certain degree, the whey protein market, but mostly the egg market, and many other proteins that are simply not needed
Mm-hmm.
because there are much more sustainable, meaning use much less water, have much lighter carbon footprint, much less resources, much more supportive of agricultural systems that support farmers directly, that do the same thing as these other ingredients
Mm-hmm.
that are really traditional, like egg proteins. And so the idea is that we replace these proteins with leaf protein that can do the same thing, if not better, actually, for a better price point. So that's the goal: is to have this impact where leaf proteins are sustainably, regeneratively, perennially able to plug into the food system in a way that's just really, really catalytic. Like it really transforms the way that we look at proteins and use proteins, because we no longer will need to cut down forests, clear land just to grow corn and soy, just to feed animals, just to produce these proteins.
Yeah.
Something like 80% of all the corn and soy grown on the planet is grown just to feed animals. Like over 50% of the land mass has been cleared to grow those crops just to feed animals. Wow. To produce these proteins.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them obviously are meat, like directly eating meat, directly eating eggs. I'm not an advocate necessarily for saying we need to be vegan, but there's a way to do it much, much, much better, and it is a leading driver of climate change and of environmental destruction is protein.
Yeah.
And so that's the impact that we want to make with FUDI Protein. That's really the focus. Mm-hmm. And then the bigger picture is getting a much larger, and I mean, part of that, of course, is having an economic environment where farmers are growing directly the proteins that people consume, be they peas, legumes, soy, whatever it is, but specifically for human food recipes, and that we're using animal husbandry and animal systems sustainably that is specifically focused on soil and soil health and soil regeneration, which is why I love alfalfa, which is where we get our FUDI protein, rubisco, because it's a regenerative and perennial crop, which means it grows year after year. And the way that we're doing it is really cool because it helps farmers as well, and it keeps our costs super low. So that's kind of the impact that we're hoping to have.
Well, that's awesome. And it also, the impact is healthier humans and a healthier planet.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Exactly.
Yeah, the protein that we're working with actually has a digestibility score, like a bioavailability score that's equal to eggs.
Wow.
So, and whey and casein, and under certain like pH conditions, which is when you get a little bit into like the techno speak of protein stuff. But generally speaking, yeah, like it's very, very, very nutritious and helpful to the human body, and it can do a lot of the same stuff. Now, I love eggs. I think they're amazing. I just don't think we need to be producing them in as large of a volume as we do just to make, mayonnaise, or just to make cake or bread. So, I see a future where we eat eggs to give us the nutritional benefit of eggs, and then use plant proteins like rubisco, like FUDI protein, to enable all the other millions, thousands, I don't know how many applications that we use egg protein for, but to enable those kind of processes, cakes, confectionery, breads, all sorts of different things that we use egg protein for.
Wow. That's amazing. And one last thing I want to ask you, since we did meet at yoga, we met at Atmo, which I've talked about so many times on the podcast.
Yes.
How has your yogic path and meditation, and you already mentioned Reiki, how has that informed your business?
Great question. It's fallen off, to be honest, if I'm completely honest, because of the focus. It's true what they say about like the stress of entrepreneurship, at least for me being like a first-time founder. But it has, I would say, in terms of daily practice, it's kind of like been difficult to balance. But that's my goal, is to find ways to balance both. But meditation is huge for me, and having, and yoga like 2, 3, 4 times a week to be able to, if I'm lucky, to get back to that rhythm. I think now I'm at like 2 or 3 times a week of going to classes and stretching at home. And it's been a big process for me. I've been doing yoga for 23 years, and like really dedicated. Especially, this is probably the least dedicated I've ever been, and it's still pretty consistent. It helps me not only with thinking about how to be confident, thinking about how to sit in my body and sit all day long, or like do the actual work physically, but yeah, just how to manage stress, how to manage the fear that exists with building a business where you're raising money, and there's like fear that you'll fail, or fear that you'll do, that your investors will be really disappointed in you, or and so but it's critical. I mean, the thing that I learned a long time ago when I did that 10-day silent meditation retreat in like 2013 from my teacher there was, build your daily life on top of your spiritual life. And so that's my constant desire and goal, which does flounder, but to get back to that and to continue to bring that forward in my consciousness is like, how do I have that spiritual life, the nervous system regulating life, the calming life, the breathing life, the mindful life, the comfortable in my body life, as the basis upon which everything else is built.
Yeah.
So.
And I do feel like there are some like yogic values baked into your business.
Oh yeah.
Like, like ahimsa, like do no harm, like that's definitely like baked in. Totally. So yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. If people want to find out more about you, where to find you, where to find FUDI, where can they go online?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So I didn't mention this, but we're doing a community crowdfunding campaign. I know you didn't invite me here to promote it, but I'm going to promote
all the things.
So anybody can invest actually right now in our company in the very beginning stages where we're at now, and it's really exciting because we've gotten a lot of traction and it's a really good opportunity. So you can go to WeFunder, that's WeFunder.com/FUDI.protein, FUDI.protein. And it's actually a really cool crowdfunding campaign where you get equity in the company no matter what you invest. I think the minimum is $100.
Oh.
So people invest $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Whatever you have, you're getting a part of the company. You're owning part of this company and the future of protein, which is incredible. And it tells you all about the company and kind of like, the numbers and the trajectory and things like that on that site. So it's wefunder.com/FUDI.protein. So that's where you can learn about that stuff. And you can watch my pitch video, part of which was filmed here, part of which was filmed on a beautiful alfalfa farm in northern Wisconsin. And
bringing your two homes
together. Super excited. Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful. Yep, exactly. So yeah, WeFunder, and then there's FUDIProtein.com, but there's literally nothing on that site right now. It's just like a little placeholder. So yeah, looking forward to it, and please do ask any questions. Udi@FUDIProtein.com. Would love to be in touch. And we have an Instagram, but we don't use, there's nothing on it. I need to get my marketing and my social media going. So if anybody wants to help with that, definitely open to that too. But yeah.
Yeah, great. And I will link to all of these in the show notes, and I'll put in your personal Instagram too, so people can find you and learn more about all the beautiful things that you do.
Thank you, Lolly.
Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. We'll see you on the next one. Ciao.